Hello there, it's Sarah from Paper Lovely. Thanks for joining me today. I'm going to be working with the Stamp Market Rainbow Surprise die set. And I gave you a look at this when I did my last unboxing. This is quite a bit of work to put together. Very, very worth it in the end. But we're going to go ahead and jump right in here. So I am following, for the most part, the instructions that Stamp Market has on their way to put this together. However, I'm making a slight change when it comes to putting the three background pieces together, or the three rainbows together, to create your folded card. So as you saw at the beginning, I cut out three of the background pieces, and then off camera I went ahead and cut out all of the little rainbow stripes to fit on all of those background pieces. Now these are all different sizes, so you need to make sure you're cutting the correct piece for the correct color. And I lined these up. I trimmed mine to about 1.5 inches for all of my pieces of cardstock, and I was able to cut 2, I think, with each way through, just making sure that I was lining up the proper color with the proper stripe. And then of course you want to keep those meticulously in order to make this part of your life much easier. So I then took a piece of Neenah cardstock, I cut out that same stripe pattern, and I've attached that to some press and seal wrap. So this way we can put everything in place, it'll hold it there nicely. Now make sure that you aren't using a fresh piece of that or it will tear your cardstock. You want to just sort of stick it on your arm or your pants a couple of times just to take some of that sticky off. But then you will press everything into place here. That's going to hold it for you as our little guide. And then you'll take one of your background pieces. It helped me out to fold back the adjoining tab just to help me see a little bit better. And then as we place these in here with our press and seal, we place them in facing backwards. So the front is away from us, the front is towards the press and seal piece. I'm going to add some art glitter glue to the back of each of these stripes, just a little bit, doesn't take a lot. And then I will take this background piece and I kind of press this down at an angle, just so I can kind of see what I'm doing. And then get that into place and make sure it's nice and lined up. You can kind of see on the edges if you're looking, from the side, just to make sure you've got everything nice and even. I'm going to use my bone folder just to press that into place. And then once we give it a few seconds to dry, we can peel this away from our guide, or whatever you want to call it. And you will see that we have the rainbow stripes perfectly attached to our background piece. So colorful. I love it. There I'm folding down that center seam. You can see that that guide has allowed us to place everything exactly where it needs to be. And we have 1/3 of our rainbow finished. So I have done that 2 more times, and we're going to line these up and attach them together. Now here is where I had some trouble. Because of the thickness of our cardstock stripes, if you're not incredibly careful when you place this together, you're going to get a weird crease with your stripes. So the best way I found to do this was to go ahead, take your tab. You want to fold that in advance in the direction that you want it to go. And then you're going to line up your stripes. You're going to sort of sandwich them together. I then decided I liked Scor-Tape better, just because it was a sort of permanent instant stick rather than trying to hold liquid glue down. I do lots of times prefer liquid glue just because when it dries it's like cement. But in this case, the way that you're folding this, I think the Scor-Tape is a lot easier. So I'm going to place it on the tab and then peel away the backing. And again, sandwiching these together. Sorry, I'm a little bit off camera here, but I'm making sure that my stripes are nice and lined up. And then I'm going to fold that tab over. Now you don't want to just place the edges together, because that's not going to allow for the thickness of the cardstock stripes. So you'll see that this is not perfectly lined up. There's a slight gap, which you can fix with your bone folder. But you'll see it's not quite perfect, but the stripes line up and it folds really nicely. I'm going to do that here one more time, again adding my Scor-Tape. And then we're going to sandwich those together, making sure my stripes are nice and lined up. Peel away that backing, and then fold that tab over. And there we have our full rainbow put together. I then go ahead and line these up again, making sure that my stripes are matching, and I'm going to take my bone folder and just sort of correct the curve of the rainbow as best as I can. I don't want to press too hard on the part with the stripes, so I'm sort of really pressing firmly on the cardstock pieces when I can get to those. Or I should say our white background cardstock pieces. So I did want to give you a quick look at how this one folds compared to if you don't line up the edges with the tab the way that I'm showing you that I have. This is the one that I found worked best for me. And here you can see that if you don't do that, you can get a crease when you fold those. So if anybody else has any tips or tricks on that, please share them below. But this was the best way that I found to avoid having those troubles. All right, now we're gonna work on our clouds, which are gonna go on either end of the rainbow. So for the back end of the rainbow, I'm gonna have a sentiment with a shaker window. I have trimmed out the cloud border this is included in with the die set. Added some art glitter glue to the back. I'm going to place that on some plastic sheeting. Now, what I use for this is the same plastic holders that I use for my die sets. I get them off Amazon. I will link them for you. I just cut them in half so they're a single instead of a pouch and use that for the background. It's a little bit thicker, but also I think a little bit easier to work with than acetate. I have then cut out about 8 or 9 more of these borders, and I'm going to stack them together using some art glitter glue. It's going to give me a nice border for my sequins. This is going to be the front cloud. I'm using another stamp set from Stamp Market. This is called Loving Thoughts. It's nice and bold and really fun. So I've got my intense black ink from Simon Says Stamp. I'm going to get a nice bold sentiment on there. Now I apologize, I did lose some footage, but I also used a stamp set from Simon Says Stamp called Showers and Flowers. This is an older stamp. This says, "You make the rainy days bright." And I thought that worked perfectly with this card. So I stamped that on what's going to be the background of my shaker. You saw there, I went ahead and cut off the extra tab. I'm just going to have my cloud directly on the edge of my rainbow. I'm adding some Spellbinders pop dots here. Just a little row of those along the bottom. I'll peel away the backing, and then I'm going to press down our first cloud. And I am hanging that a little bit over the edge of my rainbow. Just kind of angling it the way that I think looks best. We're going to set that off to the side and finish our shaker, which will go on the back of the rainbow. Here I am just trimming that plastic sheeting. I'm going to add some art glitter glue to the back of those borders that I had stacked together. Again, these are about 8 or 9 high. I'm going to place that on my cloud background. And I am going to set that off to the side to dry. I want to make sure that's nice and dry before I put any sequins in here because I don't want them sticking along the edges. So it takes patience, but it's worth it. Of course, I'm adding in some gold sequins. These are some just generic. I think I probably got them at Target, I'm guessing. And then again, we're going to add some art glitter glue around the border here. And we will place down our cover with the plastic sheeting on top. Again, I'm going to set that off to the side and let that dry completely before I start moving all those sequins around. But there you can see they shake very nicely. And time to finish up our card. So again, I'm just making sure that I've got my curve with the rainbow the way that I would like it. And because I already have the dimension for the shaker window, there's no need for me to add any pop dots. So I'm just gonna see where I wanna line things up here. Just testing out sort of how it will look layered together. And then I'm gonna take a piece of Scor-Tape and run that along the bottom. This will hold our cloud nice and tight. And we will press that into place. And there we have it. Using my bone folder there to make sure that's down nice and tight. And there is our rainbow surprise cloud. Here are a few close-ups of the finished card. In the description box below, you'll find my blog post, which has additional photos and links to the supplies I've used. If you enjoyed the video, please leave me a comment or a thumbs up and subscribe for more. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.